What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode number 322. My name is Steve, one of the co-hosts. As always, I'm here with
Ron.
And John.
and that makes three. How you guys doing today?
I'm good. A little tired,
You're good?
but
Yeah,
I'm good though. I'm really good.
good. We were talking about your sock on your mic before we started recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, just well done on that. It looks good.
Thanks, man.
I mean, it will do the same thing essentially that like an expensive piece of audio gear will do.
Yeah, I'm about to return this pop filter thing. I'm gonna
Take
just
that
put my
pop filter
sock,
back
take it
and
off
just
my
get,
foot
like-
and put it right on there.
Just put a damn
We,
sock
we should
on it.
we should do socks, but we should do the little little five-toed socks.
Yeah.
Or stripes.
And like
or,
as we're
you know.
going, we can just like kind of like tickle
yeah.
them or like
Yeah.
flick them or something. Make it
I'm
fun.
sure that'd sound great. The constant crinkling of
Yeah.
sock fabric.
John would love listening back to that.
Hey man, you think I listen to this shit?
So it feels like week over week we don't really kind of leave the prior episode with much of a plan, but then like as the next week comes, we like start talking about what we want to talk about, and this is no exception. Where like we've got like 4 or 5 things that we want to make sure we give some attention to this week. Some of the things that have been around for a bit that we just finally got around, or the rest of us finally got around to seeing.
Yes.
Some are new, some are ongoing TV series in their third or fourth season. Third season.
Closing out the third.
Right. But yeah, a nice mix on today's episode. We're going to be talking a little bit about the third season of What We Do in the Shadows. Ronald and I finally got to see Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. John checked out the Eternals.
Yep.
And all 3 of us got to see the final Bond film in the Craig era, No Time to Die, which came out as almost like a surprise release, sort of, on VOD this week.
Yeah.
Which was pretty fun to look forward to seeing. And we'll get into all those, maybe sort of in that order. I don't know. But what anything come up this week you guys want to mention, like news-wise or any kind of exciting? I know, Ronald, you were raving a bit when we started talking off recording about, we talked about the Disney Plus stuff last week a little bit, like the Disney Plus day. But
Yeah.
I don't know if we mentioned your excitement. Why don't you bring it up real quick?
Yeah. So this was kind of a part of the soft entrance into Disney Plus Day, and it was the announcement that some of the films on Disney Plus will be IMAX enhanced, which means that you'll be able to see the IMAX scenes in their true glory, in the ratio that you were supposed to see them in, as if, you know, we kind of talked about this before, but there are versions of physical media that are a little different than the digital ones. And one of the advantages to getting physical is that some of them have IMAX scenes in them. So you get to see them in the higher ratio. You get to see more image. It creates a kind of a bigger spectrum of things to look at when an action scene is going on. So with the announcement of that, they actually just kind of shadow dropped a bunch of crazy ass. I think like it's like 13 films total.
Right.
I had the pleasure of looking at Black Widow this today, and when it gets to an IMAX scene, you know it. You know, the bars that you have expand, and you get to see way more stuff. Like you get to see the sky, you get to see the ground, you get to see more Scarlett Johansson. I mean, who doesn't want to see more Scarlett Johansson kicking ass? So it's interesting because the argument's always been, is physical media getting out of here? And if you have an advantage like this is an argument for someone to lean more towards like a Disney Plus over buying a physical version. If only 2 or 3 of the MCU movies in the past couple years have an IMAX version physically, you know, you just get Disney Plus, play the monthly fee, and you're seeing these beautiful films with Atmos and Dolby Vision. And it seems like with this enhancement, the picture quality is getting better. So they're working on something, man. They got some little dwarfs in the servers doing some work, banging on.
They just have like wrenches banging on gear pods just to make the IMAX work.
How do you guys feel about the experience expanding like this.
John,
You know, I don't have any feelings at all. I mean, I'm sure if I
in
were
general,
watching,
or just
I'm sure
about
if I were
this?
Yeah.
watching one of those
Right,
movies
right.
and I would notice it because I mean, I do notice like picture quality. I know people that don't seem to notice at all the difference
Right,
between
right.
standard def and HD. They have to be looking at a giant television to admit that it looks different, you know, or
Right.
that when it's squashed or stretched. I mean, I'm so sensitive to all of that. But
Me
there's a
too.
general quality level that I will be generally satisfied with.
Yeah.
And I think beyond that, to impress me, it would take like, oh wow, this presentation. Like I have been in a friend's home when they had a projector and a good screen setup, and it was so bright, it was so perfect and bright, and the
Right.
resolution looked so beautiful. It looked like a movie theater, and I was like, oh wow. This is a better experience, you know,
Right,
but it's
right.
beyond just that. This is the acceptable level of what I guess I would consider, you know, I guess I don't know. It's which K it is, 4K, 8K, but like definitely that Blu-ray quality level. I notice when something dips below that on the televisions that we
Yeah.
have here. So I guess I'm not excited necessarily about like just the idea that it's there, but I do agree with what you're saying about like if they're only going to like if these are only going to exist in theaters and then there's a way to bring that experience into the home theater and they're not going to do it in physical media, then Disney Plus seems like the perfect place to do this kind of thing because I mean, you know, this should be the sort of catch-all place for all of that stuff. So,
Yeah.
and as far as that visual difference, I think we, you know, that moment you're talking about, I've felt it. We've all felt it when you're watching something, and I mean, the Nolan Batman films would have IMAX sequences when you just get a bit more information and a bit more immersion. The Mission Impossible movies, I think, do that sometimes too, where it's just. So I think, yeah, it definitely has an effect on me. The you know, and especially in the theater, that can really have an effect on you if you're looking at it on a good giant screen. As far as it being at home, I'm not as likely to rewatch these movies for the quality. But I will say that I was I was hoping we would talk about this in some way because when I was watching the James Bond movie we're going to talk about later, I was thinking like, oh yeah, this is one of those movies that I can see the kind of Ronald of it all, where it's like you might have something that you put on just because it looks great and
Yeah.
it sounds great. And so I always think about that more now in light of you because I'm like, oh yeah, Ronald likes to do that. Ronald likes to just really enjoy that experience, the quality of it. I mean, I think we all do, but I think you seek it out in a way that is different from the way that you know. So as far as it like on paper, am I excited? Not particularly, but I'm sure the next time I watch one of those movies. I'll notice for sure that they've, you know, that it's got, like I said, it's got that scene or two, or maybe a whole movie eventually. Isn't there something that was shot all the way in IMAX? Am I wrong about that?
I'm
Maybe
not
they were
sure.
announcing that something was going to be shot in all
Entirely.
IMAX or something. I know it's like totally expensive. It's cost prohibitive to do.
Yeah.
But
Not sure.
anyway, no. So short answer, not excited about it in theory, but I love it. I love the fact that there's going to be the best quality version, and for whatever kind of you know, cinephiles, people that really want to take advantage of that, it seems silly that it wouldn't be
Right.
on their service that's designed for this. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting like announcement in a lot of ways. From a technical standpoint, like also like over a streaming platform, but also just like the idea that like, you know, you have to imagine like what kind of conversations have had to happen like with IMAX to even allow this, because like, you know, they have a very storied history in terms of like, you know, what they allow and not allow to, you know, be shown in the theater for how long, or on what, like we mentioned a little bit off camera, like, you know, what makes its way onto even the physical media that's out there for these filmmakers that really kind of champion IMAX, like Nolan.
Hmm.
You know, some of his movies, you know, their Blu-ray box sets like have, you know, the IMAX sequences, like the 190 ratio in the movie still, but like most don't. So it is interesting that, you know, there's a streaming platform that gets the okay from IMAX, you know, to go ahead and offer, you know, 13 of these massive Marvel movies, and probably more as they come onto the service exclusively. Um, you know, to be in that format. And I mean, the other thing is too, like, you know, people's homes, it's acknowledging the idea of, you know, it's, or not acknowledging, it's like acknowledging and like kind of trying to solidify the idea that like people really want to have the best possible experience at home, you
Yeah.
know, or the best possible that they can have, you know, with the means of their machine, of their hardware. Like TVs, you know, now are kind of caught up to the fact that they can accommodate this kind of format pretty easily.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, you have TVs that are like in 16:9 now that, easily accommodate this 1:9:1 ratio that IMAX is shot in, and it looks amazing if you have a great TV. Like, I know Ronald does, and I have like a TV that's a really nice TV. The other TVs in my house, I don't know that it would really wow me that much, but on that nice TV, it probably will when I have a chance to watch it. Not to mention, like, eventually when the sound gets upgraded on these titles, which they also announced that, it'll have like the upgraded soundtrack once, I think in the next couple of months or something they said. But um, it's just like a marriage of like these properties being able to say, yes, you can use technology on your platform, because we know that the people that are going to want this, and or have the TVs in their homes to really kind of do it justice, because like they're all about protecting that IMAX brand.
Yeah.
So it's like most TVs can accommodate this. And I think they made a comment about like 26% more like space for the movie on your screen, and that can actually be used now because of TVs being formatted the way they are now versus even 10-15 years ago.
That's nuts.
So in that way, it does seem like a really interesting, cool thing. And to John's point, like I don't know that I really rewatch a lot of them, for the tech side of things, but the titles that they put out, like some of these Marvel movies, some of them are my favorites of the last, decade. So like those, I think I probably would really benefit, from being able to experience it on the IMAX enhanced, that they're rolling out, and to be curious to see, how much more of this type of stuff comes out, like on things like HBO Max, like, like when they kind of put these things back on their platform once they're done the theatrical windows, like, dude, will that be something that they try to pivot to and offer? Like, because again, like these over the top streaming things that they have, that's where they want people to go,
Yeah.
So if Disney's got it, you got to be like, well, is that exclusive to Disney? And I highly, there's no way that IMAX does that exclusive. Like,
Yeah.
so now this might be something new that they offer for these movies that we see in theaters that have IMAX, like Dune or like Bond, had some IMAX sequences. Like, it'd be cool that wherever they end up streaming, like that you could see that there too,
Yeah,
so we'll see. We'll
be.
see how that pans out, but I think it's pretty cool.
And yeah, kind of to your point, Steve, just to underline something you were saying there, these are movies you might rewatch anyway.
Yeah.
For the sheer fun of
exactly.
it. So,
right. For sure.
You don't have to just be a big old tech nerd like Ronald.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, he's kind of cultivated a nice little setup there. So,
Oh yeah.
if you have, a nice thing like Ronald has, like,
I cannot
Oh,
wait
sure.
for you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
to see it.
you got,
No,
yeah,
we
you want
gotta
to,
do some, yeah.
you want to
One day.
enjoy that as much as you can. And if Ronald, and if you're somebody like Ronald who has that setup and you're like, I'm already paying for this. This is like icing on the cake that I get to
Yeah.
like really flex this technology that I have in my house that I've like invested in. So
Right.
that's just bonus round for you. But yeah, that's awesome. What are we going to next? You want to talk? I don't know. I forgot what we said. What was next?
I think Eternals, just since I'm the only
Eternals,
one
yeah,
that saw
because
it.
you checked it out. That's right. Yeah. What did you think of Marvel's The Eternals,
Yeah.
John?
Well, it's funny to do a 30-minute segment in one episode about a critical reaction that has happened before the movie was seen by anybody, and then to come and just share a few quick thoughts about this 2-hour and 40-minute movie. But you guys are hopefully going to see it soon enough, and I don't want to, spoil anything about the movie more so than I should. So I'll talk in broadest strokes possible. Okay. Is this a weak entry in the Marvel franchise? And no, it's not. It's not at all. Is this like a falling on its sword kind of movie that we're all going to look away from? I really don't think so. I mean, I just don't think so. I think this movie it reminded me in some ways of Shang-Chi, which we'll talk about in a second because you guys have seen it, in that it had its own fantasy world that it has cultivated, and it feels like it's its own kind of movie. Like, in a strange way, it feels like it is for that slightly more niche audience of people that want to see a big fantasy film that has like a text crawl at the beginning that explains, in the time of this person created this and it was called this. And I think that it feels like a swing for a lot of reasons. And I think once you've all seen it, we can talk about all the different things it does that sets it apart, from a Marvel movie that you've seen before. It does still fit the house style. So I kind of feel like it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I kind of want to say both people are wrong. The people that say this movie breaks the mold and that's why it fails, or it tries to do something too different and that's why it fails, or people that say, oh, it's just another movie, it's not that different. I really think it has like core differences in it, interesting ideas, interesting ways of approaching these characters that feel different based on the sort of story that we're dealing with. We're not dealing with relatable Marvel humans
Right.
cracking wise with each other. We're dealing with like gods. And it's like watching gods who have disagreements between them, and it's a drama for them, but for us, it's existence or not, you know?
Right.
So it's interesting, and I think they stick that landing better than you might expect. I do think the movie has clunky passages. I do think it's one of those movies that on its way to get where it's really going, it kind of farts around a little bit, and kind of like all those criticisms that people want to give to it, I think apply directly to that like first maybe hour. That's even, I was engaged. I was enjoying it. But I was feeling like, yeah, this, if I weren't like a fan of fantasy, and if I weren't sitting here wanting to like, show me this new world, tell me this like new layer to this universe, if I weren't sort of high on that, I think I might have been like, oh, when's this movie going to get going? But I didn't have those feelings. I'm trying to imagine. There's so many people that have felt that way about it, though. Lukewarm to negative. And I was expecting, I mean, this was like the first Marvel movie, honestly, I think I've sat down in where I was thinking, this might not be a good movie. I mean, I was instantly going like, no, this is really not, this is just not the, it's just not the failure that people want to talk about it.
Right,
It's definitely like, I mean, again, it's mixed in the way that it'll be interesting for us to kind of pick apart. There'll be parts that work for some and not for others. But as far as like, how do you add a layer to a universe that we spent 20 movies in that none of the characters in those movies know anything about and have ever talked about, you know? How do you add a layer that goes back deeper and farther than what we've seen, and goes out farther and huger than what we've seen, that doesn't change or affect what we've seen? And they did it. Like, there's a whole new wrinkle. There's a whole new side of the MCU that we're going to see, and it did nothing to hurt what came before.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's pretty impressive. I mean, from just a storytelling standpoint, you know how some Marvel movies end and you go, especially when we were leading up to Endgame and Infinity War, like in a Doctor Strange movie comes out, and it ends and you go, oh, I can kind of tell the characters that we're going to save for the next Doctor Strange movie. And then I can see how Doctor Strange is now part of this bigger picture. And so a Marvel movie ends and you go, oh, I both see what this movie's universe is, and I see how it would affect other things. And if it's like, if there's a point of success in a Marvel movie of it ending and you going, I can't wait to see how the characters we know react to this shit, how like some of them may already know. I mean, that's the interesting thing about this. We may find that some people in the MCU already knew about Eternals and what they were doing, and some might not. And it seems like a thing Nick Fury would have had a file on or something, you know. So it does seem like they can get it integrated pretty quickly, or they could not. This is existing outside the MCU. It could be a little while before we really have to see it double back and relate. Wow. I'd be up for an Eternals 2, definitely, but I could also see how they could say, we don't need to do another Eternals 2. We just gave you like 10 new characters that we can now interact and follow and pop up, and especially as they get more cosmic with some of the Captain Marvel and the Guardians stuff. So yeah, I mean, is this in my top 5? I don't think so. Is this in my bottom 5? Marvel? Definitely not.
Wow.
So
okay.
I had a lot of fun with it. And I think a good sign is my son and I walked out of it talking about, like, buzzing on the ideas. Like, oh, what does this mean about this? And what does this mean about this? And then he went to a slumber party that night, not a slumber party, a sleepover. And they went to see it again. And
wow.
he was like all about it, and his friend loved it, and the dad who took him loved it. And I was like, you know, maybe this movie is going to connect with like genre fans in a way that it didn't with critics. And that'll be kind of my last statement I'll make, is that sometimes you read reviews, and I'm not saying this is the case. You mentioned this last time, Ronald. There are a lot of just audience members that came out of this movie going, meh. So this might be a meh movie for a lot of people, because, like I said, those stodgy, sluggish sections, they could put a hurt on your desire to sit through this and hang in there. But like, I kind of think this is one of those movies where you'll read critics talking about how incoherent and boring it is, and then you watch it and you go, no, it's not incoherent. They explain everything, and everything that's on screen is motivated by something. And whether you love it or not, for Marvel to say, let's do a movie where we bring in Chloe Zhao and we slow down a little bit and we have some scenes shot at golden hour where characters just look at each other. You might not like that. A friend of the show, Bob Rose, said it looked like a realtor made this movie to sell beach homes. And I think that's fair of a certain percentage of the movie, but that's like such a small percentage of what's going on in this movie. This movie
Yeah.
both has that Marvel fun you're hoping for and something slightly different. So in a weird way, maybe it won't please large groups of people, but I could see certain groups of people really digging on just what this movie has to offer. So yeah, critics might just be this might be one that goes not over their heads, but just misses their sweet spot. You know, that it doesn't have the sort of snarky, like letting you off the hook easy if you think this comic book shit is goofy stuff. This movie does not operate in that realm. It has wisecracks, but it really wants you to take it on the most sincere level of storytelling. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I guess it's a pretty hard. I dug it, but I definitely think that taking it apart with you guys will be a fun conversation to have whenever that occurs.
Yeah. So if it's within 45 days, if they go by the 45-day window, December 20th is the day it'll come out. If it goes by the Shang-Chi one, it'll be January 11th when it'll be available. So like, let's hope it's December. That would be really cool.
Spider-Man hits right around that time, so I could see them wanting to get this out on home VOD before Spider-Man hits.
That'd be pretty cool.
Or maybe that's their January surprise after Spider-Man has subsided. But they won't have this problem after December because after that it slows down a little bit to like they pushed a few things back. The schedule is not quite as insane as it was looking just a little while ago. But I still can't believe Spider-Man's in a few weeks. I can't believe Ghostbusters is next week.
I cannot believe there's no trailer for Spider-Man. Like, what are we doing right now? What are we doing?
And Tom Holland's out there saying it's a dark movie, that this one's not fun.
Why is he saying that?
He's trolling everybody. Dude.
Yeah.
Everybody's trolling everybody about this movie. But I think that the one thing that I have heard several people say is they tried to treat this like an in-game level event in terms of the Spider-Man universe.
That's really cool.
This movie is trying to like make you feel like you saw the end of a trilogy and not just another adventure.
I think it is based on.
Good.
Did you guys see Venom?
Yeah.
Did you see Venom, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
So
You talking about Venom? Let There Be Carnage.
You Let There Be Carnage. Yeah,
We called Venom 2. I don't think we ever said the
Venom
name.
2. Let There Be Carnage.
Venom 2.
But more accurately, did you stay all the way to the end? Because
I did.
Yeah. Okay,
I did.
That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I feel like we can see that coming. Tom Holland is wanting to play this character no matter which studio is making the movie. I think so. I could see the Sony side of it ramping up. I just think anybody that's talking about Disney letting go of Spider, I just feel like that's premature. They're going to make the deal to keep this going. You know,
think so?
This character. I just don't see how they don't. I mean, he seems like he's too big a part of things. But it also doesn't have to be every movie or every time.
Yeah,
there can be this Spider thing happening on the other side of the the coin, and then he's still around. I'm just saying deals can be made to bring Tom Holland into whatever movie they want him in. I bet.
Right.
See, man, I just don't want to mishandle it. I feel like this version of Spider-Man is so cool. And seeing all the I'm not trying to, the stuff that Adrian Garfield said about like.
Andrew Garfield.
Now I'm picturing like Adrian Brody as
Adrian Brody as Andrew Garfield.
Andrew
He's out
Garfield.
to impress as Andrew
in the Spider-Man 2 story.
Andrew Garfield. Yeah. Talking about basically the way that like he didn't like the way that Spider-Man felt, essentially. If you look just look up Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, his recent things that he said were not the best about kind of the way that his version of Spider-Man played out. And he is actually a solid Spider-Man to me.
He wasn't the problem with those movies.
No, he was not at all. He was not at all. Poor guy.
So you mentioned Shang-Chi. You guys saw that. Do we want to talk about that or what we do in the show? I guess let's stay on the Marvel tip and then we can let people skip into the vampire world after that. So yes, let's talk about Shang-Chi. You said you watched it twice, Ronald. Maybe you've watched it even more since then. So tell us, why did you watch it twice? How did you like Shang-Chi?
Well, I watched it twice because so I needed a palate cleanser. I got to be completely honest with you. We watched Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, and I think there was too much carnage. I think it was too much of whatever they were trying to do, and I needed something that was a little more grounded, a little more wholesome, a little more like something. And I pressed play on Shang-Chi, and I got it. It didn't hit me as hard the first time that I saw it, but I had this like feeling. Like, man, maybe I should explore this movie again and see if I feel the same way. Just the action was really cool. It felt good. The chemistry between the two main characters just really kind of showed in a cool way. You just don't see friendships done really well often. I loved it. I think I loved it. I
Yeah,
think I
it's a
loved
super
it.
fun movie, I think.
I think I loved it. Steve, what'd you think?
I agree. Yeah, no, I mean, I watched it with Aaron, and I was immediately sold on Simu as
Yeah,
Shang-Chi, and I think and my only exposure to him is really through the Kim's Convenience that Aaron always watched, and
yeah,
I always liked him, and I like his presence on social media. He seems like a really great guy, and you're just like happy to see this happening to a person like that.
yeah,
But in the movie, immediately I'm just like sold on the story, the characters, this storyline that we're following about the Ten Rings, and the ideas of family and history, and all that stuff. Like
yeah,
I just think the movie does a great job of balancing all that stuff, like with legacy, and especially considering, like, and that's why I'm very curious to see the Eternals. Is like, this one, while it's still like 2 hours and change, like for a character that we haven't really met before, there's been a mention of the Ten Rings, like, before in Marvel, but
yeah.
um it's just like they do a lot of groundwork in
They
this
do.
movie that I think is they do very efficiently. And I think, the way that they kind of dole out information about his past, as like his friend is learning about it along with the audience, I think was
Yeah.
a very creative and smart way
Super smart.
to not have to have tons of like random exposition, like, like as she goes on this journey with him, yeah, played by Aquafina. She's like learning stuff as the audience does, so she's kind of like we're with her that whole way through. And Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I really do think I don't know why I was surprised, because I'd heard nothing but like very positive things about it from everybody that I like, know, and especially whose opinion I value highly. Like, but it just played really well, and I think that in that, the final 20 minutes or so, I was like so pumped up for everything that was happening. Like I was so into part of it. Honestly, feels like I was thinking about this. Like a part of it feels like I've just wanted to like see one of these movies in a long time that like really got me emotionally attached to like a finale.
Yeah.
Like to, I'm not talking to anything like Endgame level or anything like that emotionally, but like I was absolutely like emotionally moved during the last 20, 30 minutes of this movie. Like I was so
Yeah.
excited for everything that character is learning that he can do. And I was so excited for like what the other characters that were along for the ride were able to do. And like
Hmm.
just all these revelations. And I don't know, like, I just feel like I haven't seen a really great action, big blockbuster movie in a while that like, I mean, like I love Dune obviously, but it's a different type of movie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like this just has that like I don't even know, like just that climax. It is like a rah rah like cheering moment. Like I feel like I cheered out loud, like
Mm.
watching it with Aaron. When the last couple minutes of the movie, like it's just it felt really good to watch this movie. Is what I guess I'm trying to say. Like I love Marvel movies. I love seeing new characters in these Marvel movies. Obviously the representation in this movie is like history making, and it's just like really important stuff, and it's like so great to see it so well received and just work on pretty much every level. I mean, again, I think it's really an efficient movie, even if it's just over 2 hours long.
Yeah.
But for not benefiting from having an introduction in a prior Marvel movie, kind of like Black Panther did, and that's why a part of that, I think Black Panther works so well as a standalone movie, but like because they don't have to backtrack a lot of that story. You get pieces of it, and that's what makes it work so well. Where I think this one, you know, no, most people that don't know who Shang-Chi is, and it's like you just jump right in and you're not even learning about him for the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie. You're learning about somebody else.
Yeah.
But that person is responsible or partly responsible for who Shang-Chi is, and I think that's what makes um the movie work so well. I don't know. I do agree. Like I kind of loved it. And I mean,
Yeah.
the more I thought about it, I mean, like I don't
I'm
know
so
where
glad
it
you guys saw
falls.
it and enjoyed it, because when I saw
Yeah.
it and couldn't talk to you guys about it,
Yeah.
it was extremely painful because it really does it does that thing that we like for these Marvel movies to do. It gets you goosed, it gets you
Yeah, I was
excited
like
about
goosebumps. Like I had
yeah.
goosebumps a couple times. Like
Yeah.
some of the sequences work so well. And again, like I think it's just like great casting. I think he's like, he's perfect for the role,
Yes.
and he like just embodies everything that they're trying to sell this character as, I think, in the movie. And they just pull off the task of like immediately wanting to see him in more Marvel movies. And I
Yeah.
want to see more of the character with other characters, et cetera, et cetera.
You want to see him
One
bounce off of people, right?
Right.
Yes, man. And another thing that I really love that maybe I thought about this when I watched the new Dexter. Maybe we could talk about that. If it doesn't step on the toes of any of the previous stuff. I love that. I love it. You
Mhm.
know how we were talking about how like um Halloween Kills for some people steps on the toes of a lot of the
Right.
ideas that were presented to them in this whole mythology of a character.
Right.
They took something that a lot of people could have said was one of the weirder parts of the MCU and embraced it and turned it into one of the coolest storylines in Shang-Chi. Like it's a cool thing what they're doing. I really love that there's this like admiration and appreciation for the old school, MCU, and then kind of the change that happened when it became a little bigger.
Yeah.
It's not like
Sure.
none of this stuff matters. And then after this point, this isn't a real thing. And they're like, no, this happened. This is a real thing. We're embracing it, and we can turn it on its head if it needs to be. But don't shit on it like it was a bad choice. I don't
Right.
know. I think that's really cool.
Well, they can make good on those choices with future stuff, but
Yeah.
with something like Shang-Chi, it's cool to see a movie that really kind of does it in one complete package that, like you
Yes.
said, Steve, introduces a character and deals with that origin stuff in an organic way. Because it feels self-contained as an action-adventure fantasy film, and where they go in the end feels like that could be the climax to something. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
setting you up. And so I think the way that the origin feeds into it is just like it blurs the line between comic book origin story and just backstory of a character.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that even a movie like Doctor Strange that we all enjoyed does feel more like an origin story mixed in with some action scenes.
Yeah,
Whereas this or the Black Panther movie, which again, you're right, Steve, the Black Panther got introduced to us before his movie, but his origin was still, the movie was what revealed to us like his real story. So
Right.
I think they can do this, like just leaping in with both feet into this other world, this world that we haven't seen yet. And yeah, the way that it's both smaller than and bigger than what we've seen before, I think that it's just clever that they can do that. I mean, I guess they can do that anytime they want, as long as they're going off to some new land that's kind of untouched by what we've seen before. So yeah, I do think this is an exciting way for them to move forward, and it does feel oddly respectful. Like there's some extra bonus scenes, obviously, in any Marvel movie if you stick around. And I thought I got a real charge out of just seeing like, oh shit, Shang-Chi is now like on like playing in this level with these other characters that are going to be very interested in what he can do and how he can help them, and that's cool. That's really, really cool that they can do all that
really
in
cool.
one movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
And
guys
it's
get moved by the fight scenes like I did? Remember I told you I actually got
Yes.
choked up?
Yeah.
Like there's the early fight scene with the scaffolding and in and out of the building. I got
Yeah.
like so involved in that I was like, oh my God, I'm getting emotional at a fight scene because it was the coolest thing. And I think at that point it was I hadn't seen anything that cool, that big for over a year. So
That's kind of what I was getting at before. It was like it's been a while since I
Yeah.
really felt like I like that emotional attachment to like a big action movie,
Yeah.
Mhm.
especially like a comic book movie, which we all are big fans of. But I mean, like that sequence in general, like like that stands out, like especially in that sequence when he gets back inside and he's like fighting that like master assassin.
that's the part.
Yes.
And there's that
I got
backdrop
overwhelmed by it.
of
Yeah.
like that like animated face on the billboard.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting a little like goosebumps talking about like that
Yeah.
is such an amazing, just
Cool ass scene.
blocked and choreographed sequence.
Mhm.
It looks like you're watching like a moving painting or something, or like
Yeah.
a comic book cell or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's amazing.
It was pretty amazing. What did it for me was the first scene, the bus scene.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I think
incredible.
it was because we just saw a stripped down movie in Nobody, which was very like amped up craziness that had an amazing bus scene.
I was about to say, which bus scene is better, Nobody or Shang-Chi?
Oh, oh, that's a good question. Jeez. But okay, this is what I liked about that scene. It felt like the director was like, this is what I could do. I could have three things happening at once. They don't seem related. And I'm going to make this all work in a way that doesn't feel like it's cutting away from the action. So the fight starts, the kid starts recording, and he's commentating. And it just feels so like, it didn't feel stupid. It felt very funny. That guy's hilarious, by the way.
Very funny.
It was done so well. My brain was like, "What is this?" Like, it almost felt like this was the pitch when they went into the meeting. They're like, "Look, this is Shang-Chi, and this is how I want to introduce him."
Yeah,
that's the pitch. You get on the table and you're like demonstrating this scene. That's how you make somebody want to see this movie.
And that's and that's an interesting point you just made about that. Like, it's a small funny part in that bus sequence, like the live stream that's happening. But like, if you think about the implications to the world, like they acknowledge a world in like a post-snap world. They acknowledge, where we are in the MCU, and like the idea that this like funny guy who's live streaming who took a couple martial arts classes, like that line cracks
so good.
But that is the world's introduction to a new Marvel hero.
Yeah. Man.
Like, people when he goes, to that Fight Club thing, like they're calling him Busboy. Like they know who he is. Across the world.
Yes.
And that's like a cool, innovative way to say, like, in 2021 or whatever year that is, this is a quick way to introduce a new Marvel hero to the world is through a live stream on TikTok or whatever the heck he was on. And, and immediately it worked because immediately he's recognized as such.
So good.
It was great. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, there's so many great sequences in the movie. And I think like the fight between him and his father, like towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
Man,
Really
fucking
good.
amazing. It's so good. So good.
And the stakes are there. The emotional stakes feel earned and genuine, and you don't really want to see the dad die, whatever he's into. You don't really want to see, he's not really a villain in your mind. He's just misguided. So it's an emotional fight.
It's a really good, I don't know. Like the movie does a great job at like the gray areas of like family and like the legacy of this family and of the 10 rings, and even the father, even Tony Leung's character, like who is like painted as a villain in most scenarios. Like you see that like when somebody who is bad is faced with something that is good that could possibly change them, that it does, what I mean? Like you see the impact of like good can have on evil, and it doesn't always have to equal like destroying evil. Right. Sometimes they coexist, and I think the movie like modulates between that so well. And even Shang's, like when he's describing it to the people listening, it's just like the choices that he was faced with. It's just like this back and forth of like, I'm lying to you that I didn't do something bad because I did do something bad. But I don't want to be seen as that because I don't think that's who I am. And there's all this, I don't know, that stuff works so well in this movie and with him. And just, it's really exciting because I'm pumped to see more of this character in the MCU.
Me too.
Like ASAP, please.
Me too. Me too. I was so, and then, as we speak, as you guys are watching this, it comes out on Disney Plus, IMAX enhanced. You can watch it in all of its glory.
Bring it around.
I have another excuse to watch it. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There
Pretty
it is.
damn cool.
So let's move on, I guess, to What We Do in the Shadows. We've all finished season 3. Is that
yes?
Is that what has happened?
Yes.
I sort of jumped off early this year and then binged. Like I was able to watch the last 6 episodes or something, like in a flurry, and that was great because that show is always such a little nibble. It feels like that when it ends, you could watch another installment of it easily. Yeah. And I actually thought now that there's 3 seasons, it would be fun to go back to the first episode and just watch them all again. But I really like how they did something. I mean, I think they've always had a little bit of an arc and a little bit of a plot going on, but this season ended one of my favorite kind of season endings, which is the blow it all apart season ending, where
Yeah.
you know a show's coming back, but you don't know what the format of the show is going to be. Are they going to get back to the status quo next year, or are they going to follow these characters in their new lives? And like, what is the heart of this show if it's not that group of characters living in that house? So I thought it was really cool and bold. And there's one choice they made in the last couple episodes of the season that I thought was really, sad and affecting, and then ended up with this really great coda to the. So I guess this potential spoilers to people that haven't watched season 3 of What We Do in the Shadows. Just jump ahead maybe 30 seconds or a minute. Do you think there's any chance that Taika Waititi, who has directed episodes of Mandalorian, that he does not know that what they have now on that show is a Mandalorian plotline where we have a baby version of a character.
That's so crazy.
And we have a character who's, I think, going to be that character's protector and guardian and like watching after them. How is that not a deliberate Mandalorian thing? And if so, I mean, if I'm right about that, how fucking funny is that? That you can do, like, in this world, you can do like a riff on, well, Lone Wolf and Cub. Things have come before Mandalorian.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a great idea. Like the character who, and especially in the case of Laszlo, is like, he's a guy who what's defined him thus far has been his lust for Nadia in a way, and their romance. So for him to choose something over her and to say, like, there's somebody who needs me more than you do, that's actually kind of beautiful and poignant, but it's also fucking hilarious and potentially disgusting. And anyway, I hope people are. I didn't ruin that for anybody that needs to run off and see that season now. But I just thought that was funny when I thought of it, because it's like, there's no way that didn't occur to one of the co-creators of the show who has directed episodes of Mandalorian. They have to know.
Right.
That might even be what they're going
characters
for.
in.
Yeah. Right. But what did you guys think of, like, where the season took us, and do you have a favorite character or two or scenario that came out of it?
Matt Berry, aka Laszlo, is like, there's zeros and ones coming down when he's acting, man. Like, he is on, like, don't get me wrong, like, you're talking about incredible top tier comedic actors and actresses, but what he's doing on the screen sometimes is like, I mean, I'm a huge fan of him. But yeah, Laszlo's my favorite, man. And close second is Nadia. I mean, she is. Yeah, close second is Nadia. But those two.
What about you, Steve? Got any favorites?
I probably agree. Laszlo is probably my favorite character. Like, when he's on screen, I just think he just is like never. You just can't stop watching him. And that's just Matt Berry in general. But
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like this season I really kind of was digging Guillermo a lot. Like, I feel like his just like the need / like false confidence that he like tried to exude in different episodes was so pitiful at times. But yeah, I don't know. Like, this show is just I hope this show just is kind of like goes on forever if it could, because it is interesting to see kind of how they blow it up this season, and I'd be curious to see like how they kind of go along as it moves on. But it just kind of feels like it's like in this pocket right now where it just could do really anything it wants with the characters and make it weird or make it different and introduce new things. And I think they're trying to obviously make the world of the show a lot bigger than what we've been watching for 3 seasons. So I think it's pretty smart to kind of send 2 of the 3, I guess, into different areas of the world where other characters from the What We Do in the Shadows verse are, including Taika. So I don't know. Like, I'd be curious to see what happens next season. I mean, I love the show. I have from the jump. I love the movie. We all do. We always talk about it on the podcast. It just feels like, week over week, the show just like has me cracking up in every episode, and it's like one of my go-to shows, honestly. Like, consistently always makes me laugh, and casually I just like to sit down and watch it and just relax. And it's like a warm blanket of a show for me. Like, it's just so consistently reliable.
That's it.
And they make great use of guest stars too. Like when they bring somebody in, it's usually like somebody great, and often it's a meta thing. Like there's an actor playing themselves this year that's really funny. But even just the people they bring in that aren't playing themselves, that are just here for a little bit part. And sometimes it's a character they've referred to in the past, and you finally see them. And then sometimes it's it's somebody that I don't know. It's like like you said, Steve. The world of the show keeps getting bigger. The way that they handle things, and I like that. Like that they do go through characters. They do kill people and get rid of things to make you realize that things are happening. But they also seem to know, when we've got somebody in, like Kristen Shaw is sort of a non full cast member, but definitely a big part of the show that was really successful, and she's always great. I guess I'm going to give a little bit of love just in terms of thinking about this season. I thought this was a really great season for Nandor, the Relentless. I just thought he, maybe especially in the back half of the show, just had some really. I mean, that guy's demeanor and energy is so funny that he's supposed to be like this great warrior, and he's this lurking presence, but he's this soft, sort of lost person who needs so much help from Guillermo. And then I think, you can't. I mean, I can't have this conversation and not mention how funny Colin Robinson is, just as a concept and just as a perfect marriage of a that guy actor and a role that just defines it's like a comment on his comic energy as well as a character. The fact that he's this type of nebbishy guy who bores people. I just love that notion, the different ways they've gone into it of like how you can be an energy draining person. I love that. Yeah. And the topics he goes into and the way he does it. I don't know if you've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm, but this last week they had a concept of like at a dinner party, who needs to be in the middle, because you can't have like a bore sitting in the middle of the table at a dinner party.
Yeah.
And I think actually, Ronald, they kind of connected it to like the stand-up idea of middling, because they were talking about being a good middle for the party. It's kind of the same thing, but like just the concept of like what is funny about a bore, and like how do filmmakers let you know that by showing you what they think a bore is, that it's something relatable. I think Colin Rob, just that idea of like you'd almost rather have your blood sucked out of your body as your life force ebbed away than have somebody just talk you to death about some topic you don't give a shit about. So no, that's just really clever stuff. Yeah, it is, and it is one of truly the funniest, like high concept sitcoms I've ever seen. But right now, it's definitely one of the best sitcoms on television. I mean,
no doubt.
Just working at a higher level than a lot of the others in terms of the kind of comedy it's going for, but it still gets a good fart joke in when it needs to.
It does, man. Such a good show.
So creative. I love the bit like with I don't even know what the characters' names were, but like the two that they leave at the house that they rented out as the Airbnb, like to survive off of the renters. Like, goddamn, so fucking funny.
Yeah.
And so today, you know what I mean? Like, everybody wants to stay at a themed Airbnb until you actually become a victim of vampires.
Yeah. Oh, and also Cree Summers, man. I gotta mention Cree Summers, A Different World. She's done hundreds of cartoon characters. A great character this season, man. Like I just what they did this season is really a testament to great writing and evolution of a show. It's crazy.
Can I mention somebody who works on this show who is like a total rock star? One of the executive producers is a woman named Stephanie Robinson. Have you guys ever like caught that name or followed what she's done?
No.
She is. Well, I'll just name the 3 shows that I've seen her credit on, and you'll get what I'm saying. She has written key episodes of Atlanta, What We Do in the Shadows, and Fargo.
Wow.
She's a fucking. I mean, it's like, I'm like waiting to see like what's that show she's gonna create,
Wow.
But it's just a name I saw, and I've been trying to do that lately. Of like when I see a name of a writer on an episode, I like especially if I've seen them as a producer too, see what projects they work on, and it's like, oh wow, she's been involved in like literally 3 of the best things I've ever seen. So and the episode of Atlanta that she wrote, I believe she's the one that wrote the one with the barber. Where
that is one of my favorite episodes.
That's her. I think that's her.
Oh man, we might have to like reach out to her and see if we could talk to her or something.
I mean, honestly, Stephanie Robinson, I'm sure she might be a listener.
Yeah, man, let's try
hit us up. But anyway, it's one of those. That might be a fun topic for an episode at some point. Like who are sort of the secret rock stars of entertainment right now?
Yeah.
Anyway, Stephanie Robinson. This is and she was involved. I think her involvement with What We Do in the Shadows has increased with each year, as far as like she was a writer and now she's a producer, an executive producer. But I might be getting that twisted. She may have always been, involved at the higher levels. But yeah.
Cool. Shout out to Stephanie
Robinson. Okay, well,
Bring it home here, guys.
let's talk about No Time to Die. Do we have time to talk about No Time to Die?
I think so.
We do. We
There's
do.
time for that.
Let's talk about it minute for minute. We're going to do 2 hours and 43 minutes of talk about this movie.
We're actually it's gonna be we're just gonna like live stream
Yeah.
watch it with you guys.
Right.
Yep.
Twitter watch party right now. Pop up. Yeah, man. No Time to Die. Daniel Craig's last Bond film.
Mm.
This is what his fifth, right? He did 5. Is that right? Casino,
yeah.
Quantum, Skyfall,
Yeah, 5.
Spectre. Yeah. So 5. I guess as a blanket statement in general, I love Daniel Craig as James Bond.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not the biggest Bond fan in general. Like I feel like I definitely came late to the Bond movies. I don't feel like growing up anybody in my orbit really was like a huge Bond fan. Like parents and uncle, like older adults, like that would have been of that time of like the Dalton or Connery era. Like I definitely remember, being into the Pierce Brosnan movies because at the time they were like slick, and obviously I love the Bond game, and like that was a cool era for Bond in that sense. But I feel like Daniel Craig becoming James Bond really is what pulled me into the franchise more, because I really liked him as an actor before he was James Bond, and like I guess the series has kind of like modulated between different flavors of what a James Bond movie can be. And for the most part, they've worked for me. But I think ultimately this one in general to me feels like it's somehow captured like a mix of all of the Bond movies that he's done. Like it's kind of, it manages to kind of have a lot of the Bond camp or humor, but also some of the more serious, more physical, more violent, like avenue that some of his Bond movies went down. And I think that I really like that. Like I really like this movie for that reason, is that like I feel like it kind of was a greatest hits of sorts in terms of like what he was as James Bond in the 4 movies that came before this one. In general, like I kind of am coming to terms with this, but I in general, I think I might have loved it. I need to watch it again because it is a longer movie. But I at least really liked it. And it might be my second or third of the 5 in terms of like where I'd rank them of the ones that he's done. But I don't know, man. I think that there's something to say for like, and I guess it gets criticized a little bit. And I'm not of this mindset, but like I have, friends and I've overheard people talking about like, if I want, a Bourne movie, I'll watch Jason Bourne, like that's kind of like a criticism I feel like Bond has gotten. Like, I guess the way that the Craig Bond has gone. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, Casino Royale was
about,
definitely
right?
part of that wave of shaky cam action,
Right.
and even with parkour and stuff. But it was a very physical. I think at the time when that movie came out, it felt like a really good version of that. So but I do think that style of fight choreography has gone out of fashion a little bit. But I don't know that I particularly think of that when I think of these movies. When I think of these movies, I think more of the grounded Bond, the starting out of the gate with a Bond who didn't seem like he had become the Bond we know yet, and then like over the course of the movies, like you said, kind of doling out more of what might expect from traditional James Bond. Never going as goofy and campy as it got under Roger Moore. Never like I don't know. I do think in some ways he's the heaviest Bond. He's the weightiest Bond. But I think the Timothy Dalton movies may have been the darkest Bond in terms of the sort of action hero that he represented. His mood may have been dark, but I don't remember much about those movies. I just remember growing up with the Roger Moore movies on cable nonstop, but everybody I knew who talked about James Bond was like, Sean Connery's the real James Bond. Roger Moore's like,
exactly.
Okay. But I think Roger Moore kind of became my generation's Bond because 2 or 3 of those movies were just on HBO nonstop. And so James Bond for me was For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy. There's another one that I'm forgetting, but it's like in that range of movies. But I agree. I think Daniel Craig in some way, like he's my favorite Bond. I've never sat down and looked at all the movies and said, what are the best movies? I think Sean Connery, you can make a case for like why people think he's so great, but I just think Daniel Craig is as an actor, brought something interesting to that part, and he got to be in a series of Bond films where they were trying to do something a little different with the character, which is to say they gave him a little bit more of a hero with a franchise kind of feel, in the sense that, or of Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible movies, of like there's a little bit more of an arc, a little bit more of a through line from movie to movie. At least that's my understanding. I'm sure some of the older movies were connected in direct or indirect ways, but I always felt like they would be connected in that, like the opening scene of the new movie might deal with something from the last movie, but it wouldn't be like hanging over James Bond 4 movies later.
Right,
Still the death of somebody from a movie past. So I think that, yeah, it's a different Bond, and I think Daniel Craig did a great job with it. And I've been all over the place with where I feel about these movies in this series. Spectre might be the worst.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I would say the best is. Casino Royale or this one, probably for me, were the best. But I agree, the overlongness of this kind of, it makes it hard to understand how I feel about it as a movie. I can confirm that there's some amazing scenes in this movie. And back to what I said much earlier, before I pass the baton to you, Ronald, I was thinking, boy, this movie looks great. I would love to watch this movie with an emphasis on like a great picture and a great sound system, because that's one of the things they do with these James Bond movies, is they try to make you think of like classic filmmaking. They don't want it to feel tossed off. They don't want it to feel like it's part of whatever the flash in the pan shit is. They want it to feel like a real movie. And I think Cary Fukunaga and his cinematographer really did pull off like an amazing visual experience in terms of this movie.
So I guess if I could compare the Bond stuff, I'd say that the previous Bonds kind of felt, to me, for a really long time, almost like Tim Burton's Batman, right? And then when Daniel Craig came, we got a more grounded version of Bond. I'm using a lot of comic book comparisons. This movie feels like his Logan, his like send off that reminds you why you love this guy so much, why they were so amazing for the franchise. It's more emotional. You saw Wolverine super emotional in Logan. You see James Bond really emotional, like questioning things and hurt up over things. And I mean, like it was basically like an R&B music video. The first half of it, he's just like, you broke my fucking heart.
Those are beautifully photographed too, usually,
Yes. And so what this did for me was, I feel the way you guys felt about Spectre, but Spectre, this movie feels like the most fused with a film that I've ever seen. Spectre in this movie are essentially part 1 and part 2. Like more than any of the other ones, this feels more fused together, right? So when I watched Spectre like last week with Aaron, just to get a refresher, just when you told me that news, what I did not tell you is that I did a fucking cartwheel after you told me that it was coming out. I was ecstatic. I don't think
I kind of got that read from your response.
You got it?
Immediately I was like, I think he's doing cartwheels.
I think because I really wanted to see, it's just like
cartwheels out there.
So I was fucking ecstatic. So, I was like, man, Spectre was weird, but I liked it a little more the second time watching it. But when I watched it with No Time to Die, it felt different. It felt different than I thought that it would. I was like, this movie's okay. But then when you figure out how it connects to this movie and everything that happens, and James losing so much. I was going to say that again. He lost so much in this film. To see a Bond character in such dire straits, because like it doesn't really happen. Like you don't really see Bond squirm except when a villain's hurting him or something like that. They're like, Bond, give me the code for it. It's none of that in this. It's like the stakes.
I now want to see your Bond villain.
You want to see this? What I need to do is get somebody to animate this.
Just send them that clip, like as an audition, and you might be in the next one.
You were actually supposed to be Inspector, weren't you?
You're
a
man.
member of.
Yeah, I was in the meeting when Batista's character killed that guy. I was supposed to go, oh shit.
That was it.
I have a new standard for if a meeting went well for me, and it's like, oh, I didn't get killed that way. This meeting went pretty well for me.
Can you imagine just speaking up like, man, I think we should get some more overtime, and a guy comes in, he's just
Guy
like,
comes walking in and he stands behind me just long enough that I'm like, wait, is he guarding me or is he? No, he's not. He's not here.
no, God, that was
But
brutal.
Batista was my favorite thing about
Oh,
Spectre.
so fucking good
That
in
fight scene on the train was great.
Yeah.
I really did feel like it was sluggish, and I don't know that I needed a James Bond franchise or a quintilogy, whatever this is, to like tie itself together like this. I feel like Christoph Waltz, like I love him, and I also think sometimes he's really hammy, and I feel like great choice for Blofeld in a way, but I don't know. I just didn't have that much attachment to like what they would do with Blofeld. So to me, yeah, I think certain aspects of Spectre work for their sheer spectacle. No pun intended at all, I swear. Their sheer spectacle. But as far as like thinking, like comparing it to these other movies, you know, there was points watching it where I felt drab. You know, when a movie makes you feel drab and you're like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I watching this? You know, these are long movies. I did not realize how long the James Bond movies, but that was like 2.5 hours and this was 2:40. I watched Spectre for the first time watching this one as well, but because I kind of knew that I needed to catch up on what they were doing with Blofeld. But yeah, it definitely was like, you know, not a horrible movie, but I wondered, I was like, oh, how did James Bond fans feel? Like if you are bought into this franchise and a movie comes out and it's just only so, that's got to leave people with kind of a funny mood, and then they had to hang out in that mood for years waiting for this movie to come out. So I'm sure that Bond fans, like diehards, I could totally imagine that this movie is, you know, good news for them because it does all the things you said, Ronald. It feels like it's trying to give us something we don't normally get in this series, which is a real, if you want to call it a send-off or a capper or a conclusion or whatever you want to say, this movie's really doing something that both feels like you can already see how this movie is setting up other characters that could totally, you know, be the future now that Daniel Craig has left the franchise. But it also, if you never see these characters again, I think they did a good job of wrapping things up, which I just don't think a James Bond movie usually feels that way at the end. You know, like something ended.
Related to that, everything you said about Christoph Waltz, I will put for Rami Malek.
Oh my God, yes.
You could put a fucking wet pillow there instead of him with a pistol going in and doing everything he did, and I would have been better off. I don't know what he was doing in this film. I don't know what accent he had that changed 15 times. I don't know how somehow a woman that's older than him played somebody. I don't understand how any of that made any sense. Like, how did they tried to age him like they were, get out of here.
Yeah. And what was the thing with the pillow? I know you just said about a wet pillow, but you made me think of a part of the movie. There was a part of the movie where he throws the pillow up in the air. What was that about? I think
it was just saying,
Yeah.
You move too crazy, and
no sudden moves. Okay, but it was a weird way to do it because he had that pillow by that table. It just got me to thinking: did he go like, well, for my little, like he's going on a talk show and he's going to demonstrate how to cook something? He's like, well, I've got to have my pillow ready right here for this little thing. I just thought that was a funny thing to think of. A villain would do is like, I got to have my demonstration pillow.
But they were like they were essentially in like a silo, which the bullets could have ricocheted off. That's not a thing that my brain would have ever thought. Like, if you throw this in the air and there's a little kid and him and these people, none of those bullets went anywhere. They didn't.
I don't think this guy was mentally well, though, Ronald.
Okay.
Yeah.
He had a poison farm. You're absolutely right.
You're right. A beautiful futuristic poison farm.
Yeah.
I like his lair. His lair felt very old school.
Oh, it's cool,
James
man.
Bond
Yeah, it's
lair.
cool.
Yeah.
He's interesting. Like, without a doubt,
Rami or Safin, the character.
Rami.
Okay.
Rami Malek.
He's not from Earth.
Is he good or?
Oh,
I don't know.
Steve.
I don't think he doesn't.
Steve.
He's not for me.
Are you talking about in general or just in this movie or in general?
At all.
I'm sorry to this man. I don't know him.
I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy. Like, I'm down with Rom. Like, I'm not.
No, I don't have anything against him, but I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Because the more I think about it, like watching the movie, you know, there were two things that stood out to me, and I don't know that I really if I'm going to nitpick the movie, I really like this movie a lot.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, I don't
But
think we're here to nitpick it.
is it Leia Sadu the
Leia Sadu, yeah.
yeah. I don't really think that she was very good in the movie either. And
See, I liked her.
I think
I
if there's
liked it
if there's
too.
one thing that kind of stood out was that like I don't know of the Bond relationships. I don't know that his and hers, like their chemistry in the movie works for me at all. Like especially when you compare it to
I think
Vesper.
the age thing really, really hurts their chemistry.
Yes.
He seems too old for her.
That's
They just
what
don't
it
make
is.
That work. They just
It
don't
does.
make that work.
It looks
yeah.
it looks weird.
It looks weird.
Doesn't work. Like I just don't feel like her performance works for me in general. But like the character with Bond doesn't feel like the right choice. I mean, again, it's fine. Like in
No,
the movie,
I
it
totally
works.
get you.
Yeah.
I felt like it was almost arbitrary that it's like, this is the romance they're going to go out on, because it doesn't seem like it really is that much of a click. Like they didn't click that well.
Yes,
they had kind of average Bond chemistry for this sort of. We just our lives just were threatened and we lived. Now let's have sex wherever we are on. Whatever kind of transport we're on. That's like a James Bond thing. But like, I agree 100% about that. That like the chemistry wasn't really there. I liked her, and maybe I was kind of taken with how gorgeous she is. Like, I do think that I was like, really, is she the one? But one other thing I want you guys to know, since we're talking about age differences, did you notice the dates on Vesper Lynd's grave? Born in 1983, died in 2006.
Aaron pointed that out. So
she was 23. She was supposed to be 23. Then it made me think: did she go off the grid at 23, and people thought she was dead, or she? And then I got to just two in my head about it. But it was like, it seems like you would skew the age in the other direction. You would try to make it seem less weird rather than more weird with just whatever fictional age you give this character. Maybe Eva Green had something in her contract that says you got to say I was 23.
Aaron pointed that out immediately. She's like, he has a thing for really young women.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that, but it's weird now in 2021 to see them just depict that in commentary.
What was really interesting, what you say that, but then like Moneypenny and him in a scene, a lot of chemistry. Him and Nomi, even. Yeah. Oh my God! Like I was like, Jesus Christ! Whoa! Like in Jamaica,
she's an interesting one. She's an interesting note to imagine.
She's intense. She's intense in a cool way. When they were in Jamaica and they first started interacting, and then also the other agent
from Knives Out, right?
Oh my God, she's amazing.
She
was great in it.
So good.
That fight scene. I don't know if it was just she looked great in that. I mean, just the way she was moving it was fun to watch. It was like cool. She was having fun kicking ass. That's a great quality for someone to bring.
That's the point, though, Ronald. Right there is that you just named three women that he interacts with.
It has better chemistry with. Yeah,
way better chemistry with all three of them in half the scenes. Yeah. And that's the only okay. But again, but back to the Rami real quick. Like that's even minimized. Because I think Rami like really is the biggest issue of the movie for me. Like, I really don't think I like him. Like, and I think something went wrong with Bohemian Rhapsody, where like all of a sudden he's like this amazing actor.
He's the guy.
And
he's the guy.
Like everything he's done since then he's been very weird and not good in.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing. Like, with this being Craig's last Bond, like that villain being.
Yeah,
having the impact that he has on the Craig Bondverse, like, it kind of is a little bit of a letdown because I don't think he's a very good villain, and I don't think even his performance as that villain is good.
Can I give you a swap? I'm gonna swap.
I would love you
Felix. Safin should be Felix, and Felix should be Safin. Can you imagine Jeffrey Wright as a villain?
Don't take away my Felix. I love Jeffrey Wright as Felix.
I know, man. Good. I know, but Jeffrey Wright is he's a force, and you're dealing with somebody that's like, or even fucking M. Voldemort. I'm just saying, like. By the way, what we realized slowly quickly is that they really didn't have to put a lot of prosthetic on his face. His face is just kind of scary looking for Ralph,
Wait, who? Rami?
Ralph
Rami.
Fiennes.
Oh, Ray
Oh,
Fiennes.
Ray
Yeah,
Fiennes.
Ralph Fiennes or whatever. Yeah.
But he's
M.
got such a proud schnoz though. And
Yes.
Voldemort is not. He's got
But
a
everything
schnoz.
else is just like his like evil face.
I thought he was really good in this.
He
I thought
was
his
so
performance
good.
Was really
He
good.
was
and he
so
brought a lot of gravitas to that role. That
Every-
could
Yeah.
be- yeah.
Everybody was
around it is so good, man. Like Moneypenny,
So good.
QM, like
yeah.
everybody was Felix. That whole sequence was great, and
Ben Whishaw was the heart of this movie in some ways.
he's so
Especially
good.
his involvement in the climax, though. He's like the character who you get to see kind of have the distant reaction to what's going on. And I thought he was great in that little quiet moment or two that you see where he realizes the stakes. Like he realizes what's actually going on more than anyone else does. Yeah,
He's
he
us.
is in some ways. He's even just trying to have a nice dinner and he can't even do that. Bond comes over.
Yeah. It hurt my feelings when that stuff unfolded. You know, it's like it's a weird thing when you just realize that like something's not going to work the way you want it to work. And watching that emotional change, like the optimism turned into like genuine, like, oh my God, like this isn't what we thought it was going to be. The plan just isn't what we thought it was going to be.
You get a feeling in your stomach where you're like, I'm gonna probably cry in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like looked over at Aaron and I was like, holy shit, this is about to go down. Like this
might be going somewhere that it's different.
Yeah, they're actually gonna do this. I was like, wow.
So let's nutshell our thoughts and then go into a little spoiler section and wrap this bad boy up. Anybody have anything else they really want to say that's just a general thought? It sounds like we're all pretty positive on this movie. We are seeing it late. Most people that were really excited about this have probably already seen it.
Yeah.
But really quick, point to make. This movie is going to end up being the biggest worldwide movie of like the big box office releases of the pandemic era. Like there's a couple of movies in China and Korea that came out like homegrown movies that may probably make more money. But I'm talking, Fast and the Furious, Marvel, whatever you want to say. That Spider-Man, they changed that. But, right now, Bond worldwide is kind of knocking on the door of Fast 9, and it will absolutely pass it because it's doing extremely well internationally. Mm-hmm. But I think the move to bring it to VOD is a really smart one because it's going to clean up on video and, with this platform too. But, I mean, that's like a massive win. Like we talked about Bond like a couple months ago. Like, is Bond going to completely miss?
Right.
And like it absolutely didn't. Like it maybe didn't do crazy gangbusters here, but worldwide, like it's in the realm of like Bond performances even pre-pandemic. So like that's a huge achievement, and that's something to be applauded, I think.
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing, and I hope it doesn't step on the toes of what I'm about a franchise that we've referred to. Okay, Mission Impossible one time I said like that Mission Impossible is one of the best Bond. The last one was one of the best. But here's the thing: this movie, the scale of this movie, the way it's shot, the way it looks, the way that it feels, this like puts it very securely in a spot where it separates itself from Mission Impossible to me. It makes a very clear, like these movies are very different. They cost different amounts of money. They look different. They feel different. They have a different legacy. This separated them to me. Even if
this movie reminded me more of a Mission Impossible movie than any other James Bond movie.
But
like when I was watching it, I was like, this is very much like a Mission Impossible movie.
But what I was going to say is like there would be no Mission Impossible. I mean the movies. I don't mean like the shows. There would not be any Mission Impossible. Yeah, there wouldn't be any Mission Impossible if it weren't for Bond. And Bond.
It's like Tom,
but you know
Tom
what I mean?
Cruise gets to do American Bond.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like that's what Mission Impossible kind of is.
But this is them being like, aha, we got this back. We can make a movie that feels accessible, crazy and action packed. Like Spectre,
huge.
And huge. Spectre didn't feel like that. This securely makes me feel like I was watching a Bond movie again. Like it felt different.
Totally. Totally agree.
I don't know what it was.
Spectre felt like Mission Impossible 2.
It did.
It did.
It did.
It really does. It really
did.
feels like a big miss. A big miss.
I was like, this doesn't feel like a Bond movie. And then I watched a Bond movie in this last film that really does, like you said, like there are elements of Mission Impossible that make it so good. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, it connected with me the way that Mission Impossible did. Not that is not a thing that happened for quite some time when it comes to Bond movies. So, yeah, man.
Well, folks, we're about to spoil a little bit before we wrap up this episode. So if you haven't seen the movie, this is a good time to skip because this is an easy one to spoil. In a couple of words, we can spoil it. And I'm about to do it in 3, 2, 1, 2 words. Bond dies. Holy shit. I mean, I guess I kind of knew they were going to do something a little different with this one, but I did not know they were going to do... I don't think this is a franchise-breaking idea. I think they can recast, reboot, whatever. I think this movie gives us characters we could follow in another movie, a team. I would love to pick up, speaking of Mission Impossible, I would love to pick up with who's left standing there at the end of this movie, the group of people that are toasting Bond. Yeah. To me, that's my next Bond movie. I don't need to hear Idris Elba or whoever, or Henry Cavill or anything. I don't need to hear who's Bond. I just need to know, like, who's 007 suddenly is a lot more interesting to me. Because I think they kind of nailed that tone. Like that, I really got into that team at the end. So but how do you feel about how they did it? We were talking about the emotions earlier. I think that's what you guys were alluding to, that you would get this creeping sensation that Bond's not going to make it off the island in time. He's kind of dead 2 or 3 different ways in this movie, you know? Yeah. But this notion that he can't be, and this is where what you were saying, Steve, the criticism you have, I think does weigh heavily, is that so Bond can't be around this one woman, and that's a reason to hang it up. I get that it's like the moment where he just says, fuck it. I can't be around my child. I can't be around the woman I love. I get for Bond why that's a moment to say, I've done enough. It's time for me to stop. And also, I might not make it off the island anyway. I could run like crazy. He's kind of playing the odds. I feel like it is a very tactical choice. But I do think what you were saying, Steve, that lack of chemistry, that does hurt a little bit, that final moment of realization for Bond of like, oh, it's not worth living now because I can't be around these people.
And what makes it work though is the child.
Yes, definitely the child.
That's what makes it hit for me.
Because we may have just seen him develop hope because of this child. Like they didn't make that a huge part of the movie, but you see it in his face that maybe this is the first time James has felt like he had something worth saving and worth like hanging up his jacket and like going home to kind of. Yeah. So.
And also there's like a practical idea behind his love for this woman. Like, I think sometimes when you think about love as a concept, you're like, oh, every time I see her, I'm gonna, it's like hard. But I think that true love is a lot more practical. It feels a lot more like, I'm not trying to say that it has no chemistry. I'm not saying that, but like, whatever this version of love that he's found through this relationship, this is maybe what a real James Bond would have felt. It's like, it's not, I'm not throwing this person all over the place and having sex all over the place. Sure, it started like that, but now when I see her 5 years later, fuck, I feel the same way that I did 5 years ago. Like that was crazy to me. That part stuck the landing to me. Outside of all the lack of chemistry that they had at some parts, that made more sense to me. That was what really stuck the landing of the explosion, was him seeing her and expressing the way that he felt about her when he saw her, just kind of pouring his heart out to her. That was crazy. That was an amazing scene to me.
It was if you had an idea of like, we're going to kill James Bond, how do you do it? Yeah, I think they staged it well, and it felt satisfying. Do you agree, Steve?
I totally agree. Yeah, I think that the idea, I mean, even little things that they do leading up to the point, like, when he's getting out of there and he sees the little stuffed animal and he grabs it and he hooks it to his little suspender.
Oh, man.
And it stays there.
Yeah,
it stays there
and it
dies,
stays there
too.
the whole time through the last lines of dialogue, where you're not really seeing the child. You're seeing him talk to Madeline, but you're looking at him with this little plush in his little waistband, and it's like that's his child's. And like when he goes, he's got a piece of his kid with him. That's fucking good. Like I don't like that works for me.
No,
like it's really, really good stuff. And when it happens, and like the last couple of lines that he's like repeating over and over again, like that, I think they did a great job with it, man. And I admire that they that they went for it, man. I don't know.
Well, Felix died too, and I think that's
Yeah.
worth giving a moment to.
Oh,
I
that broke my
loved the way
heart.
they handled that because it was not like it was a quick shot, like a dirty blow that took him out, and it was
Yep.
just
Yep.
no way to save this guy, no way to get out of here in
Yep.
time to save this person. So it's like kind of like the end, a precursor to the ending of James Bond. Like not being able to do it all, like I can't save everybody, I can't get out of here. And then what did Felix say? He said, "Make this one count."
Yes.
Make it worth
Make
it, or
it worth
something
it.
like
Make
make
it
it
worth
worth
it.
it. I mean, Jesus, like
Yeah.
I know.
what a
I
great
know.
last line, and what a
Yeah.
great sort of meta comment about this movie.
I
Yeah.
know.
you know,
I know.
I
And I
gotta
think
be.
that's what make.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Ron.
I would definitely watch a middle movie that's like James Bond in Jamaica because
or
I loved.
Felix. I would do just a CIA spinoff with Felix doing some
Oh my
shady
god!
shit.
Oh
Like that
my
would be so
god,
fun.
man! That just watching James and Felix in Jamaica was so fun. It was crazy.
What if they did like a Weekend at Bernie's slash James Bond kind of reboot with the two of them?
There you go. There you
So
go.
there you go. That's what Schmovie Studios. If we weren't,
That's it. That's why we
Okay.
got that up.
is there a Cylon?
Is there aliens coming?
I think War of the Worlds is happening outside my
Oh,
window.
okay.
Oh my
That's what it
god!
sounded like.
Somebody
Dude,
got
that,
beat.
that, that's like a highway, like a while away. It's like there's like these cars or bikes that race like late at night, and
Oh,
that's what
yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
like. It's so
Oh.
fucking loud.
They come up and down York or Greenmount
Yeah.
near my
Yes.
house, and I'll hear it like at night. Like especially if I go outside to let one of the dogs out, and I just step out with them at night, I'll hear shit going on.
And
It
you're
just
just
sounds
like,
like Mad Max.
how far away is that, and how is it
Yeah.
that loud?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. Good times.
All right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, man, honestly, like No Time to Die, like it works for me. I think
Yeah.
pretty much across the board with the nitpicks I have, like even those said, um, well done, Daniel Craig,
Yeah.
dude, you did it, and
Yeah.
you put out some, a great niche, or a great like little slice of the Bond legacy is yours, and you're my Bond guy. So until a better one comes along, you're my guy.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What should they do next? Do you want to see this world spinning out with these actors in these roles, or do you want to see the big news, new Bond? Like, what does that even mean to you now? You know,
It's a good
I'd like a
question.
Nomi movie. I'd like a movie with Paddington and Nomi and Voldemort trying to save the
I
world.
Yeah.
mean, you say that, and I would absolutely watch that movie. I don't think that's what's going to happen for their
Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah.
I
You
think
know what
they
it seemed
want,
like they were doing was putting in Rory Kinnear as like a new M. Like this movie
Right,
seemed like it was a
right.
baton passing moment because Tanner got to do a
a
little bit
lot.
more.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, is that just because they want to say we love Tanner, let's give Tanner more to do, or was this a sign of like Tanner can get in there because he and Nomi had like a moment or two together that felt like, oh, this is the team.
This is this is the group now. Yeah.
But so are they not going to spin that character off? That feels like a no brainer to me. But maybe there's just not enough of an enthusiasm behind it to do that. The Bond
know.
franchise kind of works in mysterious ways. So.
Yeah. I hope
Yeah, I
she's
think-
at least involved.
I think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they do. I don't know. Like, because in today's IP world, it's like,
You got to have James Bond. You know.
right, like
Yeah.
they're gonna reboot this entire franchise. If they're gonna reboot this entire franchise and have a James Bond, if that's the approach, like they're gonna want like a big, some sort of big announcement, big name, big publicity swirl over who can be James Bond, or whether it's a man or a woman or if they change it, whether it's Nomi or something like they got to make it the franchise, or 007 is the franchise if they pivot away from a Bond movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they did a little bit of that in this movie, like talking about the 007 of it all, and like there's some good jokes in the movie with that, but like it would be, I don't know, it's like they're very, very protective of this franchise, and they know it's a perennial thing where like they, in a perfect world, it's $1 billion franchise. And I'm very curious. I really don't know what they're going to do. I mean, there's so many conversations about, her being the new Bond. And then it's like, she's not the new Bond. Like they're talking about like, she's not the new Bond. She's just a new 007 in the movie, which makes me feel like they want to reboot the franchise.
Yeah.
Like that they want to start a younger Bond that can be a Bond for decades to come. And if they do that, I'd be looking for someone, who is a younger character or younger actor rather, not like maybe in their, I don't know, early 30s or something like that.
Yeah.
That could do it for 20 years easily,
Yeah.
or 25 years, but I don't know. We'll see, man. I don't know. But this one was a good, to me, it was a great send off. And I'm actually really excited to watch it again.
Me too.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna watch it with the fam after.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good watch. It's a good watch. All right, man. I think that's it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
So moviesmovie.com is the website. The YouTube channel is actually youtube.com/movie podcast. We have all been mistaken for so long that we assumed we had the /movie. And apparently a gentleman who's been around for 15 years, who has 1 subscriber and I think 3 or 4 videos. But you know what? More power to you. Maybe we can talk and maybe we can make some changes. But our YouTube that you should be finding is /movie podcast. And we'll link that properly now, probably, we will link that properly on our main website. But if you go to the main website, you can jump into any of the social media sites, all the podcast platforms. You can find the episodes if you want the audio version. If you like the video, again, youtube.com/movie podcast. You can subscribe and make sure you hit the bell to get the notifications when new podcasts come out every Friday. That's the goal, and that's what we've been able to do for the last basically 20 months, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Crazy. Any ideas for next week, guys? Anything jumping out to you? I mean,
I did have
we
one
got to come
idea.
up with something.
Guys,
Thanksgiving's coming up, so. Oh, is this a little secret? Got it.
And
Good
then
idea.
we need to.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
I like how you kind of turned it on its. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, then it opens the door for us to.
Well, that might be a little too preemptive. I don't know.
Well, I'll
We'll
twist
see.
your
We'll
arm.
feel it
I'll
out. We'll
twist
see
your arm
how it
next week.
goes. Yeah. Again, though, like we'll probably come up with like 5 more movies to talk about next week.
Yes.
Like,
We'll say we have nothing, and then we'll have
Right.
like a lot to squeeze in. But that's fine.
Yeah.
That's a cool problem to
I'm
have.
sure maybe we'll talk about Red Notice. That comes out today on Netflix.
Red
That's
Notice.
the big Rock, Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot movie. That's like a big one. So maybe we can talk about that as a starting point. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Crazy.
Guys, calm down. Don't get so excited. Okay, you guys both look too excited.
Everybody's clamoring for more Red Notice coverage.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. All right. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. As always, you've made our day. Thanks.
Bye.